So the thing that you need to do as anybody who gets into the occult practice or the study of ancient wisdom or symbolism is you have to make these symbols a part of your consciousness. Well, what I'm getting at is we now know that within the last 100 to 150,000 years, there have been at least a dozen global catastrophes. At least a dozen that we now know about. Yet we humans have endured through that whole process. How did we manage to survive when the woolly mammoths didn't, when Neanderthals didn't, when the saber-toothed cats didn't, when the giant ground sloths didn't, when 13 other hominid species didn't? How did we manage to survive? How is it that we are able to be sitting here tonight having this discussion? Well, if you read all of the myths, they're all consistent in one element. Somebody within the mass of humanity had foreknowledge. And they responded by, typically in the Judeo-Christian tradition, what did Noah do? He built an ark. Right? He built an ark. Then, of course, Xisithras in the Sumerian tradition, what did he do when he had foreknowledge? Built an ark. What did Manu do? You know, in the Indus Valley tradition, what did Manu do when he built an ark? Now, we always picture arks as being big wooden boats. And I think it's highly plausible that people did build big wooden boats to survive the kinds of floods that have now been geologically confirmed to have happened. But maybe they built other kinds of arks. What did you say would be a logical response to knowing that there was an impending global catastrophe? Move.
We would go to another planet.
Okay, let's stop and think about that for a minute.
Maybe we didn't go to another planet, we just stepped off of this one for however long it took to repair itself and it came back.
See, I'm going to probably go along with you on that. Well, okay, I tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to go ahead and fling open the gates, okay? Where would be a very logical place to go in terms, what would be a possible natural ark for humans to take refuge on or in the event of a global catastrophe? The answer to that question could probably be given to us if we were to ask it to the man in the moon. Probably knows the answer to that question.
Which is Randall.
Well, it's not me. But somebody knew. Somebody designed this as the... We now know that the five-pointed star represents what? The Masonic five-pointed star is Sirius, yes. What do we see here? This is the bicentennial commemorative silver dollar. What's going on there?
Rising of the moon and the Liberty Bell.
The moon and the Liberty Bell. Now they're juxtaposed. The Liberty Bell is juxtaposed on the moon. Well, what is it about the Liberty Bell?
Did you want to know that?
Yeah, you might be right.
It might be the old world order.
I don't know. Are you guys ready for this?
Yeah.
Bring it on. Baby.
Well, I don't have it all ready to give to you yet, but this is a sneak preview. Yes. I had Elizabeth read this a couple of weeks ago. The Egyptian inscription says she rose with the dog star. Remember? Who? Who was it? Isis. Here's Isis. Notice, what's being associated with Isis here? The moon, yes. Notice how she's standing in the ark. And notice how the ark is floating in the waters, almost as if it was a boat, almost as if it was a ship, right?
Right, reminiscent of the Egyptian ships.
Sure. And what do you call Egyptian ships? What's the word?
Ark.
Well, what is it? Not ark.
No, see, I don't know.
Come on, what is it?
Argus?
No. But we need to get that up. Okay, what is it? Come on, Bill.
I can't, I'm drawing a blank.
Jeremy. What do they call them? What? Ark with a B in front of it. A bark, right? Right? And what do dogs say? Okay. See, I taught. So there we go. Go dogs.
Makes me think, what's this like curtain of heaven she is pulling apart?
Well, that's the veil. She's piercing the veil, remember? Right. Let's look at a couple more here. Here's from alchemy. Notice this figure, two-headed figure, representing the rebis, the completion of the alchemical work. Interestingly, standing within a... And notice here is the very traditional fairy tale way of depicting a moon. The man in the moon, right? The man in the moon. It's a tree of life. We won't spend a whole lot of time on this because it's somewhat afield, but let's see what else we've got here. Here is the tarot card of the moon. And what do we see? We see what? Two dogs. Two dogs, right? And we know that Sirius is how many stars? Two. Right. It's two dogs. It's not a single dog. It's actually two dogs out there, right? So here we have the two dogs.
In the dark. Yeah, one's dark. Yeah, one's dark.
We have two towers. We have a lot of yuds. A lot of yuds. What are the yuds? Come on, what are these yuds? How many have we got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. A lunar number, 18. What are the yuds? They come from the Hebrew alphabet, right? Now here's some Kabbalah for you. The yud is the seed of the Hebrew alphabet, but it also represents another kind of seed. We've seen this yud associated with the tarot cards. Where did we see these yuds before? Raining down upon the earth. You see, that's what they're doing. These yuds, these cosmic seeds are raining down upon the earth.
I believe they're between two dogs.
Yeah.
Well, also, since you had mentioned the diamond tessellations in the floor of the of Solomon's temple, that to me sounds a little reminiscent of that too.
Another tarot card. Notice the prominent position of the lunar arc, with her foot placed upon the lunar arc.
11 stars on the crown.
No. Count again. 12. Also, notice the heart-shaped. What is that? Remember the depictions of the Grail? The dove descending, the host descending into the Grail cup.
And the moon.
Yeah, and the moon, and notice the roses, notice the water, the stream of water. What's growing around her feet there? They're not cattails, it's wheat. Wheat. Did you have your Wheaties this morning, Jeremy? Yeah. And then we have the staff that she holds in her hand, right? There's the globe with the two parallel lines representing the Tropic of Cancer and the Tropic of Capricorn, and the cross, which traditionally, prior to its Christian associations, what did the cross represent? Well, the material world, right? The world of matter. It was the cross that lays out on the earth, the east, west, north, south cross, but it's also the equinoctial cross of the great year, the equinoctial solstitial cross of the great year. We are going to get a whole lot more into this lunar connection because it turns out to be extremely important. Here are various ways of representing crosses. Now, the one on top is particularly interesting. Notice how the cross has been united with an anchor. See that? The anchor. Okay. Okay, now I'm going to pull up another.
It's not the secret, it's the cosmic secret.
Right. Okay, let's look at this Masonic apron. Here's a Masonic apron, loaded with cosmic secrets. Let's look at some of the things we see on here. Right at the center of the apron, what do we find there? An ark. Yes, floating on the waters of the flood. Surrounding that, we find a wheel. There's our wheel symbol again. And surrounding that, we see a collection of various implements along with 5-pointed stars. Above it, we see the square and compasses. We could identify a number of these. This is a setting maul. You know, this is the book of sacred wisdom. This is the trowel. This is the level. This is the plumb bob. Here's a sword piercing a heart. And then up here, we find an urn or a cup. And over here, can you tell what that is? It's a beehive. Yes, a beehive. Yeah, and then, of course, we have the all-seeing eye. Notice at the very center of the whole composition, which thing? Oh, down here, this is the coffin with the acacia plant growing. What is the coffin? Well, it represents, if in the Hiramic legend, remember Hiram Abiff, just like the other, like Tammuz and Adonis and Jesus and Osiris and all the rest of these guys, he was slain. And then he was resurrected. Okay, let's look at this one. Here's another Masonic apron. Let's take a look at what we've got going on here. Now, as I've told you before, when we look at these things, this is a composition written in the language of symbology. You have to be able to read the language of symbology in order to read what this is saying, because there's a whole coherent statement expressed right here. Just as if I open this book or take one of these pages here, and here's all the words, I could scramble these words, scramble these letters, and it would lose all meaning. I take the same letters and I rearrange them into words, and I arrange those words into certain patterns, and it can convey meaning. This is a statement about archaic scientific knowledge, but it's encoded in symbolic language. And let's go through and see what we see again here. Beehive, right? There's the pyramids. And 2 pillars. And what is this with the checkerboard floor, that temple? What would that represent? King Solomon's temple. And we have the 5-pointed star with the letter G in it.
The smooth, the rough backwater.
Very good, Bill. The smooth and the rough ashlar. So when the stone is first quarried from nature, it's in the rough shape. It then has to be smooth and trued, so it's now ready for being fit into the temple.
Is that maybe the symbology of that mountain versus the pyramids? You've got the rough mountain on the right, the smooth.
Well, this is possibly, this is Mount Moriah. Mount Moriah, right here. And you can't see it down here because the bottom is clipped off, but there's a coffin right there. Here's the setting maul and the trowel. What does the trowel do? When a mason uses a trowel, it unites the separate stones into a single mass, right? Okay, then, look what's this.
That's the moon.
Yeah.
It's the Ouroboros serpent, the serpent swallowing its own tail. And within that, we find the square and the compasses. And within the square and the compasses, we find the skull and the crossbones. And then, what do we find around the skull and the crossbones? There's those drops again that are in some representations, they are the yuds, the 10th letter of the Hebrew alphabet. And then we find a cluster of stars. And down here, that's not wheat, that's acacia.
What is the symbolic for the skull and bone?
Ah, well, you might have to ask W on that one.
What's the flower above Solomon's temple?
Oh, this? I'm guessing it's a rose because a rose has 5 petals. And a rose is a very important alchemical symbol. And then, of course, we have the sun, we have the moon, and up here we have an equilateral triangle with the letter yud, the Hebrew letter. And you will see that if you ever see a Scottish Rite Mason, they will often be wearing a little gold band that has this symbol in it, the equilateral triangle with the letter yud in it. And then the sun and the moon. And we got a couple more things here, tools that are used by Masons. And then we have, very inconspicuous, but they're very important for teasing out the meaning of this. Notice this, and that, and that, and this, and this, and this. Those are part of a secret Masonic alphabet.
Oh, the marking, the Mason's mark.
Yes. But they are representative. It's a cipher. It's a Masonic cipher. Okay.
What's the cipher?
Well, that's what I'm trying to reveal to you piece by piece. Okay, let's take a look at this one. What's going on in this? Here's a Masonic medal, probably from the 1700s. And let's see what we see there. Skull and crossbones, a cross, and notice a serpent winding its way around in a certain fashion around that cross. Notice the sword with a wavy blade. And then you'll notice how many points on the star. Where have we seen that before? Where have we seen that 8-pointed star before? Let's see. So concealed, what I'm getting at is concealed within all of this, there's a vast and epic story. And it's the story, it's our story on this planet and our own cosmic history. And if you think of it in those terms, I think we'll have a good foundation for beginning to penetrate into the inner essence of these symbols and extract the meaning that has been concealed there for centuries and centuries until the time was ripe for humanity to access the true epic story of our own history on this planet. And there we'll leave it for tonight.